guys, Elizabeth Quinn here again with Elizabeth Scenes and Scents. Welcome back to my channel. Today what I have for you is an explanation and a little bit of a tutorial on Garland. This glorious garland behind you is something that I created, and just please do know that the filming quality suffers a little bit because this is my basement. There is no natural light. I have cheap fluorescents in the ceiling, and when I tried to turn those on, because there is a mirror here, it just didn't work. So I brought every lamp that I can think of. I have my ring light, and hopefully this will be satisfactory for lighting. I'm sorry if I glow a little bit like a ghost, but let's get to what I did to create this, and I will add some step-by-step clips of when I was actually putting this together. This garland is on a really nice mantle that my father made for me that is cantilevered out close to a foot from the wall. And then the other thing is that my very heavy mirror, he glued that for me years and years ago to the bricks, so I can't just take it down, which I would do for a video like this to get rid of that glare, but it just isn't leaving because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to fall over, that it wasn't going to break, and if you ask my dad to do something, it's there for the rest of your life. So word to the wise, probably if I had thought about it, I would have asked him to put it on some sort of command strips that had Velcro so it could be taken down, but that's another lesson for another day. Back to the garland itself. This is done on a really cheap Walmart garland, and I have it running the length of the shape that you see here. I have little nails on the ends of this cantilevered piece of mantle that Dad made for me, and that way, even though there is a ton of weight hanging on this thing, it's not going to fall off. And I do have some interesting things that are keeping our deer up back there, so we'll talk about those as we go. But here is another garland that I'm going to be using upstairs. This is all green. The one that I have in here, although you can barely see it, is flocked, just because that's what everything else down here is like, although I really am not going to turn the camera so you can see things. Maybe we'll show the tree at the end of this video. But you put in what is basically an anchoring piece of garland. It can be very inexpensive, but it needs to have a nice wire, and it needs to have twisty branches. This is what's so important. And that is going to be the thing that is your base that then allows you to layer other things in. So I do have a branch here, which is featured in this garland. This is the last one. I didn't need this one, but you can see it here. You can see it on the ends, and this beauty I put in first and then used the branches and some floral wire to really anchor this in. I used 3 of them in this arrangement, which I was thinking of this like a U shape, an upside down U. A lot of garlands are a nice big swoop, but because of the shape of my mantle, and here's one of the first tips, look at your mantle and see what does the mantle want to do rather than what do you want to do to the mantle, because sometimes we get really frustrated with an idea that's in our head and it just isn't going to work. Now for years, I never thought about the extra space down here on this mantle as something that was a bonus that I could work with. And the last couple of years, I've been dripping down the sides this extra bit of greenery, and look at this. It just makes such a difference in the drama of my particular space. So look at what you have, see what you can do to extend the lines of your piece so that it has drama if that's what you're going for. And for sure, I was going for a dramatic impact down here this year. So the next thing is color choice. I decided that I wanted to do the velvets, and that's kind of hard to see even with the ring light. This is just a Walmart ornament, and they're all over my tree, and they're also all over this room. The big burgundy ornaments, which are not in the mantle because I tried and they were just too big. The exaggeration was too much. I put them in the tree instead. But the little emerald green ones were perfect for this. So you've got the high contrast of the deep burgundies, the emerald greens, and the whites. That makes it even more critical when you are working with your materials to balance the colors well, because it can look super splotchy if you get those high contrast colors wrong. Now, if you go with everything monochromatic, which I can show you here with some other materials, something more like this, and even maybe some soft greens, if you're going to put it in that other garland that I had here. These are not going to be quite as difficult to work with, although I am still dealing with white, when it comes to mixing and creating harmony. And when you're dealing with garland, you want differences in textures. Now, this one may not be right for my garland upstairs and for my tree, but I'm thinking about it. I'm also definitely going to be putting in some of these Norfolk pine sprigs, but this is a softer contrast than what we've got here. And on my tree that's in the upstairs corner of my Florida room, which we will do a tour closer to Christmas and all that, that one is very low contrast, even less than what I just showed you as a grouping. So that was even easier to get all the pieces to be harmonious. But this guy, you really have to watch your color distribution and your textures and all that stuff. So first I put in all the green, then I put in all the white, and I've got different textures, just like I was sharing with that other garland I'm going to build, that really make this pop. So you're also going to then, after you get in your greens and your whites, you're going to start thinking about the ribbons. So I put ribbon with this one on what I would call the shoulders of the garland first. And then I started tucking in some berries. I started adding this kind of thing because at first, like I said, I was thinking about using these huge burgundy ornaments and they were just out of scale for what I needed, but I also hadn't put up my reindeer. So I was getting a little bit frustrated because I'm like, this is good, but it's not really what I want. So I think I even slept on it before I had the aha moment the next morning, how to get this all doing what I wanted it to do. So at first, I wasn't going to add the regular red. I was just going to work with the burgundies and the pine greens and the whites. But it needed to tie in also with the rest of the room. So I started fishing around in my red bin, and I had come up with this ribbon, which is red rather than burgundy, and it has a little bit of wire. This is a very inexpensive ribbon, and it was doing this with this ribbon, which I'm so happy with. I just got this one off of Amazon, but this is the inexpensive velveteen ribbon that I've used all over the place down here. And I don't know if you can see it, but these two ribbons are layered here. So I used the wired ribbon to give this other one body. Now, I know that right now it's super trendy just to have drippy velvet ribbon that doesn't have any kind of wire. And that's fine. But in the type of thing that I was trying to create here, which is very traditional, my kids came downstairs, they looked at it and they said, "Mom, that looks like something you'd see at Bourdain's." And Bourdain's is the local greenhouse conglomerate that's just our favorite. And I go every year, I look at all their trees, they inspire everything, half of what's up here is from there. And that was a compliment to me because the drama of what that group of greenhouses creates always inspires me. So back to our ribbons here. To create the drama, without having to have both of these wired, I've just layered, and you could even add some tape or some sort of an adhesive if you wanted. And that way you're going to get, see, if you tuck it correctly, these beautiful swoops, even though the one velvet ribbon isn't wired. And it also gives you extra interest when you are dealing with those layered ribbons. And it's gorgeous. So texture is very important. So we have the velvet, which is trendy. We have the matte reindeer. And these guys are just up there on stacks of bowls and books. So let's hope we don't have an earthquake. So I've had these reindeer from Target for years. They are a pair of my absolute favorites. And he just goes up here carefully on his books and bowl balancing act. And that made a focal point that I really needed, even though the garland itself was very dramatic. And then these are Studio McGee from Target. I ordered those in because I couldn't find them in my local Target, but they were online. The gold also acts as a nice accent and just keeps the eye moving and keeps it interesting. But the reindeer provided that focal point that I wanted. Then I put in the tall flameless pillar candles, and I may add, or taper candles. I may add some more tapers over time. And then I had to put this guy on another, like a little riser, because I wanted the trees to either be equal or close, and they were too far off. So there's a lot of engineering behind this that you don't see, that I think sometimes people just wonder if you wave the magic fairy wand and all of a sudden it appears. There's a lot of thought, there's a lot of pre-planning that goes into executing a beautiful design like this. So let's go to, if you don't have the ring light on that's making me glow like a ghost, how are we going to light this well down here? So we've got the lighting that's at the base of the garland, which you will see when I do the different clips of how I built this. That's twinkly. Then at the end I added some extra regular lights, and if I turn off the ring light, you can see that, yeah, it's pretty, but everything goes dark. So if you have a space where you want to bring light to the front of the arrangement, The best thing that I can recommend are string lights. Now, these are not exactly the right temperature, because another thing that you might really want to think about if you're building a really classy arrangement is try to get your lights pretty much all the same. It's hard because there are so many different ways you can get your lights now. You can get them LED, you can get them incandescent, you can get them cool white, warm white, whatever. These are extremely warm yellow, and so they're not going to go the best with this, but for the sake of example, this guy can be woven in, and he will bring light up to the front of this arrangement. I'm not going to leave these, I don't think, because I don't think this is what I want for this, but this is a very important tip if you're getting frustrated. And you can see how that brings light forward. It's a little hard on the camera, but I would really work these in much better if I was truly going to leave them. But if you want glow on the front, string lights are a great way to do that. You just have to remember to put the batteries in, put them on a timer or whatever. I was going to be a little bit lazy this year and just work with more shadows in this particular arrangement than I sometimes put up with, but that's just the way it's going to be. So the other thing is learning how to manipulate these pieces so that they look nice. Always think about any pick or any ribbon, make sure it has life. Make sure that when you're working with it, like here's one that I'm going to use on the upstairs garland and the things that are on my mantle and my tree that'll go in the front room that I haven't even touched. This is a gorgeous ribbon all by itself. This is one by, I think the company is either Ribley or Ribby, and it has a double-sided, just beautiful nature. So it's already very happy. It's going to cooperate pretty well. But when you're working with it, you just want to make sure, I mean, maybe you want some of the loops to be gold. So that's another cool thing about double-sided ribbon is you can do it either way. You can use it for either color. But if we just want those white velvet loops, you have to twist and pinch and really work with your ribbons. Now, everybody has a different way of ribboning things. I like bows most of the time where we have a smaller loop and a larger loop and then a couple of tails, and I like to scrunch my tails so they have a little bit of movement and life. That's if you have nice wired ribbon like this. Some people are really into even, very perfect bows. I'm not a perfect bows person, but a ribbon like this will still give you that. So you're going to pinch it, then you're going to use some floral wire to get that nice and tight. And then here's a trick that I have learned. I don't do my middles very well, so I'll take that same floral wire, which of course I forgot to bring for the video, and I will make an extra little loop here, and then I'll floral wire everything so that it's kind of pretend, like you didn't tie that, you just added the loop and then you wired it together. It looks really good. That's what I've done on the corners here, on the shoulders of the garland. I've made these double with the two ribbons that I showed you earlier. These double bows that look like this with the long trailing tails, and they look great. And then I did add one of my uneven loop bows in the middle because they're just easier. Trying to do everything so it's perfectly even, it'll drive you nuts. So make it asymmetrical on purpose, and then if you want, you can do as many loops and make a much bigger bow depending on what you've got going on. You're going to use floral wire, and you're going to wire all of that nice and tight, and make sure you get in between with the wire, because otherwise it'll just all pop apart and then you'll be mad. So those are some of the things I've learned from trial and error, and now we will cut to actually seeing me build this garland, and I hope that this was helpful. I don't know if I got all the way through. I think the family came down and I had to quit recording, but we'll go back and do an up close at the very end of the video of this. So I hope this was helpful, you guys. Have a great day, and I appreciate the enthusiasm that you wanted to know how this thing came together. God bless. Bye-bye. If you watched my decoration prep video, it's not even doubled like I said I would use, one cheap garland from Walmart. And trust me, this is going to look a whole lot better when we're done. But first I have this anchored in with a couple of little nails. Now I know not everybody wants to put nails in a really beautiful piece of furniture. This has been here for a very long time in my basement, and I don't care, but you could use command hooks or other more subtle things, and I do need to even up the ends here. First, I'm going to put in some twinkle lights, and then we'll talk about picks. So the next stage of my mantle arrangement is just getting the twinkle lights into the base garland. I fluffed this as much as I can. Obviously right now it's not winning any awards. And then I will be coming over here and doing some sort of a treatment with this wreath. But down here, all of the things are here that we're going to be using. And some of this will have to get saved to go into the tree. And I have another little owl that's in an arrangement that's in the other part of the room to correspond. But we're going to get started on working in some of the greenery. So now you can see I've got most of my wonderful picks in here, and all of a sudden it's coming to life. Now, I have one pick shoved in the wreath over there. We'll deal with that at some later point. But this is starting to get really exciting, and now I'm going to add some white. So now I've added the white stems in, which will tie into my flocked tree better, and my flocked wreath. And this is probably about all I'm going to add, except for some touches of maybe berries. I'm not sure which ones we're going to do, and some ornaments and some ribbons, and then that little owl will go in, and I will take a few touches and reference that as well. So in conclusion, after I put in all of the white that you saw in the prep video clips, then I layered in a lot of these other various picks like the berries and the eucalyptus. I started adding the ribbons, and then I started wiring in ornaments, and some of them are even just tucked in here. Then last I put in the little sparkly pine cones, because I always like the texture that pine cones give. And the little bits of gold were very helpful. Then over here is a close-up of my wreath, and I do have a matching arrangement on top of my hutch cabinet thing that's in the other end of the room that has the larger owl. And then here is the tree. And this type of ornament is what set the entire course of the theme and the colors that are down in my basement this year. I love real tree toppers. I'm not so much into the poofs of ribbon and all that. I want something that has glow and has character. And I have mostly, because this is not a very large tree, repetitions of 3. And my daughter's already started doing a little bit of Christmas shopping, and she wrapped some things. If this was a taller tree, you might want 5 of an object, or if it was a 9-foot, you might want 7 or 9. But being that this is, I think, a 6-foot tree, we've got 3 owls, we've got 3 of this beautiful drippy velvet ribbon. These ornaments, these white ones with the red background, the white and red, I wish I had more of them, but 3 is perfect for this particular tree size. And I'm really, really happy with all of this. I hope that this video satisfied some of your desire to know how to make a glorious garland, and I sure do hope that you guys try something like this in your own home and that you are very satisfied by the results. So this is Elizabeth with Elizabeth's Scenes and Scents. God bless. Have a great day. Bye-bye.